distance, it doesn't even look real. Rising straight out of the Pacific, like a jagged spear of stone punched up from the ocean floor, Ball's Pyramid stands alone, dark and impossible, in a vast circle of empty sea. This is not an island with beaches or gentle slopes. It's a sheer volcanic blade, a rock tower so strange, so alien-looking, that it feels more like a backdrop from a sci-fi movie than a real place on Earth. And yet, it's very real. Why this spire exists at all, and why it looks so otherworldly, we need to go back in time, to the birth of a volcano deep beneath the Pacific. To understand Ball's Pyramid, you have to picture the aftermath of a giant that no longer exists. The spire we see today is only the surviving fragment of a massive shield volcano, a volcano that once rose from an ancient underwater plateau known as the Lord Howe Rise. That volcanic system erupted, grew, and eventually eroded away, leaving behind this single razor-edged remnant. Geologists estimate its birth at roughly 7 million years ago, placing it deep in the region's volcanic past. What makes the formation so striking is its shape. Ball's Pyramid isn't a broad island, it's a blade, a narrow knife-like ridge thrusting upward from the sea, its walls climbing almost vertically from the waterline. From a distance, the silhouette looks unreal, a stone fin cutting cleanly into the sky. Despite its small footprint, the structure is enormous. It stretches about 100 meters, 369 feet in length, yet reaches only 300 meters, 984 feet, across at its widest point. That extreme narrowness paired with its height is what gives it such an intimidating profile. It also holds a remarkable distinction. Ball's Pyramid is recognized as the tallest volcanic sea stack on the planet. Scientifically, it's a gold mine. The formation captures a complete geological story. Volcanic uplift, erosion, subsidence, all preserved in one towering shard of rock. Ecologically, its isolation has allowed unusual marine and coastal systems to thrive in relative peace. And visually, it's simply one of the most dramatic natural structures in the southern Pacific, a silent reminder of the forces that shaped this part of the world. But Ball's Pyramid doesn't stand alone. Surrounding it are smaller companion rocks and a notoriously turbulent sea, elements that shaped every attempt to reach it. Ball's Pyramid doesn't sit on an open seabed. It rises from the center of a submerged shelf, a broad underwater platform that drops sharply into deeper water. That position sounds stable, but it creates a natural amplifier for rough seas. Swells roll in from every direction, rebound off the shelf, and collide again around the base. The result is a ring of turbulent water that almost never calms. Approaching by boat isn't just difficult, it can be outright dangerous. And the pyramid isn't alone out there. Several smaller outcrops orbit the main spire like scattered teeth. These fragments of the ancient volcano add drama to the landscape and create yet another layer of hazard for anyone navigating the area. Given those conditions, it's no surprise that setting foot on Ball's Pyramid was nearly impossible for decades. The first recorded landing didn't happen until 1882 when Henry Wilkinson, a geologist with the New South Wales Department of Mines, managed to get ashore. Even then, it wasn't a triumphant expedition so much as a testament to persistence. The slopes were steep and crumbly, the surf unpredictable, and the margin for error almost non-existent. And yet, as challenging as reaching the rock was, a new generation would soon see those hardships not as a warning, but as an invitation, setting the stage for the climbing attempts of the 1960s. By the early 1960s, Ball's Pyramid had become something more than a strange landmark on nautical charts. In the eyes of Australia's climbing community, it was a challenge they couldn't ignore, a solitary 562-meter volcanic blade that no one had ever reached the top of. For serious climbers, that kind of blank history is irresistible. A first ascent isn't just an achievement, it's a place in the record books. What made the pyramid so tempting was the same thing that made it terrifying. It was remote, surrounded by a restless ocean with no safe harbor and no natural ledges welcoming a foothold. Its rock was unstable, weather-beaten, and unforgiving. And because it stood alone in open water, conditions changed quickly. One moment calm, the next, a wall of wind and spray. To climbers, though, that combination was exactly what elevated it. Ball's Pyramid wasn't just another route to map out. It was a multi-layered test, a technical climb on poor rock, a logistical puzzle requiring long-range transport, and a battle against the elements from the moment a boat left shore. It represented the kind of frontier that mountaineers talk about for decades, and soon, a handful of ambitious climbers would decide it was time to make history, beginning a series of attempts that would define the next chapter of the story. The first serious push toward the summit came in 1963, led by one of Australia's top climbers, Bryden Allen. His original team included Jack Pettigrew, John Davis, and Dave Lambert, a strong lineup on paper. But as the departure date approached, circumstances narrowed the group down to just Allen and Lambert. Even so, they pressed ahead, determined to at least make an honest attempt. But the pyramid had other plans. They never even reached the base of the climb. The ocean, always the first barrier, was simply too hostile. Every approach route crashed against violent swell and exposed rock shelves. After repeated tries, the two had to accept the reality. Landing was impossible. They left with a promise to themselves. We're coming back next year. And indeed, the following year brought a new attempt, but from a rival group. In 1964, a second team set out with the clear intention of claiming the first ascent. This group included Dick Smith, Rick Higgins, Dave Roots, and again, Dave Lambert, now climbing with a different party. They arrived with a logistical advantage that Allen's earlier team never had, a large boat chartered directly from Sydney, capable of taking the entire group straight to Ball's Pyramid. No small transfer craft, no complicated staging, just a direct shot at the objective. Expectations were high, and then the climb unraveled fast. Their accounts described nights spent in cramped caves, fighting off huge centipedes with python hammers. They spoke of unstable rock, overhangs that crumbled under pressure, and a landscape so severe it seemed to resist human presence altogether. In the end, the mountain turned them back, and they returned home empty-handed. Allen began planning a new expedition, one that would rewrite the story in 1965. By 1965, Bryden Allen was done with half measures. The failed expeditions had taught him exactly what Ball's Pyramid demanded: a precise team, a disciplined plan, and a willingness to treat the climb not as a stunt, but as a full-scale operation. So he rebuilt his roster from the ground up. Most of the core climbers came from the Sydney Rock Climbing Club. Their mission got a boost when the Sydney Morning Herald stepped in with a $200 grant and sent along reporter climber Ben Sandilands to document the attempt. Allen believed the hardest part of the entire expedition wasn't the climb itself, it was simply getting onto the rock. So the team spent weeks training along Sydney's wave-battered coastline, studying swell patterns and practicing how to time a leap onto whetstone before the next surge pulled them backward. And always in the back of their minds was the reality of the waters around Ball's Pyramid. Waters known for sharks, a threat that added its own layer of pressure to the already risky shoreline approach. They flew to Lord Howe Island aboard two heavily loaded Ansett flying boats, the Islander and the Beachcomber. Their equipment list read like a small expeditionary force: a heavy Kingfisher HF radio plus two 12-volt car batteries, enough food and water for 2 full weeks, over 2,000 feet of HAV 124-inch manila rope for fixed lines, and a formidable supply of pitons, bolts, and other hardware for the steepest, most rotten sections of rock. Everything pointed toward one goal: siege the pyramid and do it properly. But nature intervened again. Cyclone Judy swept through, forcing the team to wait 2 extra days on Lord Howe Island. Once conditions eased, not calm but survivable, Captain Clive Wilson maneuvered the Pacific Chieftain to within 40 yards of the spire. That was as close as the seas would allow. From there, the climbers had to swim. They ferried themselves and their gear through rough water, constantly scanning for sharks and fighting waves that threatened to hurl them back out to sea. Once ashore, they found a narrow scramble route leading a few hundred meters to the right, then upward to a flatter terrace about 100 meters above sea level. This spot became their base. On the first day, the team climbed to Winkelstein Steeple, the highest point reached by earlier expeditions. Carrying massive quantities of gear slowed them down, and much of the day was spent fixing cheap hemp ropes along every pitch to create safe lines for future ascents. Day 2 brought hopes of pushing higher. Jack Pettigrew and John Davis led the charge, aiming directly for the summit. But the mountain disagreed. They advanced no farther than the previous day's high point. Meanwhile, Allen and Witham remained at base camp, organizing equipment and preparing supplies. By dusk, the two climbers regrouped with the others, ascending the fixed ropes to a cramped bivouac cave just below Winkelstein Steeple. They were now positioned for a full day's assault on the upper ridge. The upper pyramid was every bit as treacherous as its reputation. The rock broke easily under pressure. Overhangs loomed overhead. Knife-edge ridges forced precise footwork with empty air on both sides. Still, Allen and Witham pressed upward, edging along a narrow spine for nearly 500 feet. Then, at 2:30 p.m. on Valentine's Day, they stepped onto the summit. Height, 562 meters, 1,143 feet, the first successful ascent in history. Minutes later, John Davis and Jack Pettigrew joined them. The four climbers celebrated with a bottle of champagne, its bubbles catching the sunlight over the Pacific. They built a small cache on the summit and left behind a message documenting the achievement. The top itself was tiny, only about 30 yards across, with sheer drops on all sides. Far to the west, Lord Howe Island, 11 miles away, shimmered under the afternoon sun. A pair of startled gannets circled overhead, reclaiming their nesting site once the team began their descent. Even going down was no simple task. They descended the south ridge, installing more fixed ropes as darkness fell, eventually spending the night in a cave halfway down the route. By February 17th, the entire team had returned to sea level, where their boat collected them and carried them back to Lord Howe Island. It was over, and the first full conquest of Ball's Pyramid was now written into the history of oceanic mountaineering. A new era had begun, and soon, conversations about the pyramid would shift from climbing triumphs to the need for protection and preservation. In the decades that followed the first ascent, Ball's Pyramid entered a new phase of its story, one shaped less by ambition and more by protection. By 1986, authorities made the decision to ban climbing altogether. The concern was twofold. The rock was dangerously unstable in many areas, and the isolated ecosystem around it was far more fragile than anyone had realized. 4 years later, in 1990, the policy softened slightly. Climbing was once again permitted, but only under strict conditions, with tight oversight and limited access. The goal was clear: honor the spirit of exploration, but prevent the pyramid from being loved to death. And so, the legacy of the 1965 ascent took on a different meaning. It wasn't just a triumph of athletic skill or logistical brilliance. It became a reminder of a turning point, the moment humanity proved it could reach the top, and then began asking whether it should. Ball's Pyramid now stands at the boundary between what humans can conquer and what they must protect. Today, Ball's Pyramid still rises like a monolith in the open Pacific, sharp, proud, and impossible to ignore. To anyone who sees it, whether from a research vessel, a distant kayak, or the skies above, it offers the same message. This is a place that tests limits, physical limits, logistical limits, and the limits of our understanding of nature itself. The 1965 climb reminds us of how far determination can take us. The restrictions that followed remind us of something equally important: that the world's most extraordinary places demand care, not conquest. The pyramid is no longer just a stage for adventure. It's a living symbol of the balance between exploration and preservation. A reminder that some wonders endure only if we choose to protect them. So here's a question for you. Should remote natural landmarks like Ball's Pyramid stay open to carefully managed adventure? Or should they be completely protected from human impact? Share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear how you see it. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Deep Sight for more stories of remarkable places, hidden histories, and the extraordinary world we live in. See you in the next exploration.